I don't think we need to race these things. We don't want to knock back our industry by encouraging people to race in a world of installing socket outlets. That's something that I don't want to be a part of. But I will install it to the best of my abilities.
That's a brilliant excuse, but this is not a how-to video.
Well,
it's all about speed. We've dealt with that in the comments already when people say you haven't earthed the back box. It's just how fast can you do the socket, and no pressure, but you should be the top of the leaderboard. You're the most experienced electrician we've had do this challenge.
With experience comes age, and with age comes slowness. Okay, so you don't think, when George Burns was 101 as a comedian, we didn't say he was the fastest comedian in the world because of his experience, did we? So yeah, we'll give it a go. I don't know what unready looks like. They never sort of ask somebody on the sports line, do they? Are you all ready? We're just ready, aren't we? We're ready to go.
Gary Hayes, your socket challenge starts in 3, 2, 1. Go.
Okay, we're off and running. In with the twin and earth strippers, poorly named, I would suggest. It should be twin and CPC strippers. So we're going to take those off. We're going to take off the outer PVC. Remember, PVC stands for polyvinyl chloride, often missed in the educational world. And you'll notice as I strip these back, exposing my conductors. We've got our line and neutral, which are both live conductors. Often people think it's just the line conductor that's live. They both carry current, so the line and neutral. If there is effectively 8 amps in the live conductor, there will be 8 amps in the neutral conductor. So that's why we call them both live conductors. So I'm going to double them over. They are incredibly small holes in which we're going into, but whatever size the hole is, you should try and fill that hole. That was a lesson that I used to do with my students. Offer the hole in life, try and put as much as you possibly can into it. And that's what we do in the electrical world. I think a beamer guide suggests that you can double over cables as well, because there is often a call that you're fracturing the copper conductors when actually you're making them larger. Therefore, you've got a bigger surface area for the brass screw. And why do we use a brass screw? The reason we use a brass screw is because it is not a dissimilar metal to that of copper. So when you think about dissimilar metals, you probably did it at school with the side of a ship or something like that, and you put zinc on it. So the zinc would rot away and not this hull of the ship. And exactly the same process here when we think about dissimilar metals, that brass and copper are similar metals. So when you put the two together, there is no corrosive reaction between the two. So that's another good exam question. I've cut them a bit long. He's baggy sleeving. So there is a person out there, James, who's now back on social media, that loves a little bit of baggy sleeving. Now I've got to hope these go in. So as we look at these, we've got only a visual polarity test for these. So I'm looking for the L for line. There is no color to aid me in the connections, and the holes are incredibly small. I'm going to try and get them one on top of the other. So as we go in there, I'm going to try and get them in, and no copper showing. So preferably no copper showing. I'm going to tighten those down. The screw heads are considerably mashed, but remember they're only ever installed in the real world probably once, and the screw head can last for that. But obviously in a college setting, we know those screw heads do get a bit of wear. So going neutrals, try and get one on top of the other. Sometimes you have to use your pliers and move them around. So we get the maximum surface area to the screw, squash those down. Then there'll be a little trick at the end when we do it. So hopefully we've got those nice and tight, and I'll show you a little trick at the end. Push the sleeving back down, which is always a pain. I'm going to separate them across. I always used to do that just in case. It used to be for clean earths, not anymore. If it's on a ring final circuit, I prefer them to go in 2 different holes. Now there is thinking out there that you should leave the CPCs longer in case the socket outlet has some sort of horrific, absolute horrific event happens to it, that you then want the CPC to be the last conductor to disconnect as you're pulling it away. Well, as it's pulling away, you've got the live conductors hanging out the front of the socket. And that's been thrown at me a few times, and I just don't see what people's thinking is. Now, the trick is to try and make sure that they go out wide, and you go in, push it into place, make sure it's secure, lift it, and retighten. Because what we don't want to do is for them to unsettle down. So that went half a turn. That went half a turn. The important ones being the CPCs. The socket outlet will work without a CPC. It just won't be safe. Ooh, good half a turn. And this one here with an absolute ruined head, 2 turns. Okay, so we're back into position. Make sure it sits down nicely. Hopefully the cables and the screws are out of the way. These are really short, so we should be in a lovely position where we don't have these screws actually go into the actual insulation, because obviously we'd have a fault. And again, just hope that we get those down. I'm going to screw one side down, making sure the other one holds down into position. And I'm going to make sure my screw heads, doesn't grip, horizontal. And again, some people are vertical, I like horizontal. It's your choice. And because, oh wow, the threads are really good on these ones. Not that I'm complaining. There we go.
So the times are in, great effort. Loved how you spoke the whole way through, so I couldn't make any comments whatsoever or ridicule you or point out you brought your own tools and you were the first person to bring your own tools. Just completely stopped all my fun and just talked non-stop throughout.
And when you say first, I like to think I was the first person to actually double over the cables. And I gave a few tips in there as well, didn't I, about obviously making sure that when you pushed it back into place, you come back on, because often I wasn't called, settle down into position. So I thank you for that. And if I've come the fastest person to double the ends over, is that true?
That will be.
Thank you very much. I am the fastest
We'll
person.
skip the bit where you're the only person to double the ends over.
We don't need to go into finer details here, do we? Thank you very much.
So your final time was 3 minutes, 58 seconds. 22 seconds of that was putting the green yellow sleeving on.
Okay.
Which means if you're allowed to use Earthshore, your saving would have been 10%.
Oh, right, okay, which makes, every 10%, you think how many sockets, you're not going to do one in the installation, you're going to be second fixing all day, so good time saving it. Fiddly as well. I mean, it's that, it's okay on a nice flat surface. When you've got anything above your head and you're putting sleeving on it, we know where that sleeving always ends up. So, you give us a chance there by laying it flat on the table. I think if you'd have had it on the wall, would have been a little more tricky.
Yeah, but then my time would have been slower and everyone else wouldn't have been able to do it.
We're used to your time being slower, though, aren't we? Yeah? Hashtag above Aaron.
So, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for taking part. And we'll see you next. If you're interested, get in touch and you can come by and see if you can be above Gary. Hashtag above Gary.
Come by. Come by.